On 7 News tonight, time to fix the southeast COVID testing shame. Thousands still queuing for hours, why some testing sites are closed. People told to stay at home if it's too hard to get a test. Cases expected to reach hundreds of thousands. Plus, early booster shots underway. Erosion worsens. Beaches battered for a second day from the Gold Coast to the Sunshine Coast. Big concerns for the northern tip of Bribie. A woman assaulted, robbed, then had her car stolen at Logan. Spectacular pictures as Gold Coast surfers venture into the middle of those monster waves. And a COVID scare for the Brisbane Heat, but the Ashes forging ahead as the Aussies name their team.
Live from Brisbane, 7 News with Kendall Gilding.
Good evening. Stay home if it's too hard to get a COVID test. That's the crucial new advice from our state's top doctor as queuing chaos builds across Queensland. Hundreds of thousands of cases are forecast over the next few weeks.
This is how thousands of Queenslanders are being forced to spend their holidays, waiting and waiting for a COVID test. The queuing crisis plaguing clinics from one end of the state to the other.
When I arrived and I saw all the cars here, I had a lot of sweat running through my veins because I knew how long it was going to be.
Closure signs at many drive-thrus.
Our website has shown that private pathologists were to be open today, but we have been advised overnight that in fact a number of private pathologists are not opening at the moment.
The Chief Health Officer giving new advice about how to avoid the delays.
If you are sick and not easily able to get tested at present, please stay at home. Assume you have COVID-19.
And call an ambulance if symptoms become worse.
Breathlessness, chest pain, fainting or severe lightheadedness.
The Health Minister insisting the government's planned as much as possible.
But up until yesterday, we assumed many of these sites that I'm talking about today were going to be open today.
Good planning isn't about assuming. It's about doing your homework.
Those who've given up on the clinics are queuing wherever they can buy a rapid antigen test. Customers waiting 2 hours at this IGA on the Gold Coast.
Got the golden ticket, we're good to go now.
In Wollongabba, the crowds gathered so fast they beat the delivery man wheeling in boxes of testing kits.
It's chaos. This line at a New Farm chemist has grown quickly in only a matter of minutes, with the queue stretching around the corner now onto Brunswick Street.
I went to another 4 stores this morning and I found it on Facebook, someone posted.
But moments later...
They've run out of stock. He said they had a truck drive up from Melbourne over the weekend and they've run out of stock.
Over the next few weeks, infections are predicted to soar to extraordinary numbers.
Very high. Certainly in the hundreds of thousands, if not more, in Queensland.
The state recording 5,699 cases in the past 24 hours, bringing the total number of active cases to more than 25,000. 170 people are in hospital, 11 in intensive care. Booster shots another line of defence to tackle the spread.
Anyone who has had their second dose 4 months or longer ago will be able to go in and get a booster from today.
Today, panic buying started. Many shelves left bare for fruit and vegetables, meat and toilet paper. Dreaded deja vu in 2022. Marlena Wapp, 7 News.
Well, live now to Joel Dry at Mount Gravatt. Joel, we know rapid tests are hard to get and some people may be cashing in on the shortage.
Yeah, Kendall, it seems unfortunately there are people out there willing to prey on the desperation of Queenslanders looking to get their hands on one of these tests. The ACCC is investigating claims of price gouging of the rapid antigen tests. Now, so far, the Consumer Watchdog says it has only found evidence of excessive pricing, but that's both in retailers and in particular online. Hopefully the Queensland Government got it at a good price because they have now taken delivery of 500,000 rapid antigen tests, which will be distributed to state-run testing facilities. So in the coming days, people will start to see 2 lines form at these clinics. One line for the PCR test, that is symptomatic people, and a second line where people can collect their at-home do-it-yourself kits, and that is particularly focused on people who are close contacts that need to get that day 6 test to get out of isolation, and that two-line system should start to form in the coming days. Kendall?
Joel Dry, thank you. Someone has dropped the ball. That's the sentiment at clogged testing queues where thousands of sick Queenslanders waited 8 hours for swabs, which in many cases couldn't be taken. 17 clinics remain closed despite soaring cases.
PCR poker,
We tried 3, but they're all shut.
whether players are sick, sleepy,
Mate, wake up.
maybe contagious and still doing what they've been asked.
We're close contact.
How are you feeling?
Headachy, yes. Not very well at all.
Yeah. How many places did you go to yesterday?
3.
Deception Bay, Boondall, Chermside, Hurston, Robina.
It's absolutely ridiculous. We went to Beenleigh today because it said it was open on the website and that was closed.
17 of the largest testing centres didn't open. QML, Sullivan, Nicolaides, Forsyth.
There should have been some intervention by the government to say, hey, we'll pay you to stay open.
When did the government find out the private clinics wouldn't be opening? Last night. Staff, including nurses who've put themselves at risk, are sick, isolating, on leave.
We can't direct a private pathologist to open up.
Then there's Kovacs, Kelvin Grove, opened just last week. It's closed after losing hundreds of tests, including the walkers at Kelvin Grove.
It's been next level coughing, the sort of coughing that until you've got no breath.
Her little girl's tests came back this morning positive. The closures, combined with mass contagion, are putting colossal pressure on the testing centres which are open. On the Gold Coast, a driver cut in front of 100 cars.
Hey dude, that's mate. Sorry man, I got COVID.
At Mount Cravat Showgrounds, the line was closed and people turned away before testing even began.
Now they've decided to open for a couple more hours, but these cars aren't going to get through.
How many cars? Thousands. A 2-kilometre car park.
This is the end of the line for the Mount Cravat Showgrounds Testing Centre. It's so long we're no longer in Mount Cravat, but Wishart.
And Mansfield by this afternoon.
I think our government has dropped the ball, absolutely dropped the ball, and I think that's because they knew about this. They knew that they were going to open up. They knew that they had to get more tests than what they've got.
A front row seat, Glenda says, to granting freedom without enough foresight. Erin Edwards, 7 News.
On the Gold Coast, testing clinic closures mean only 3 sites are left. Caitlin Steadman, wait times are now blowing out to 10 hours.
Kendall, the lines we saw here today were the worst we've seen them. Hundreds of cars were turned around at Robina and Mudgery-Bar private clinics. Staff, feeling the pressure, handed out rapid antigen tests so people could assess themselves. That will hopefully be happening at Gold Coast public clinics tomorrow when the state government releases its 500,000 take-home tests. If these closures continue and these tests don't arrive, wait times will worsen, putting increasing pressure on health authorities to fix it.
Caitlin Steadman live at Southport for us. Thank you. They're as scarce as hen's teeth, but if you do get your hands on a rapid home test, are you sure you're using it properly? Our how-to guide and where you can buy them without getting ripped off. Don't miss that story later in 7 News. Beaches, the length of Queensland's tourism capital, continue to be impacted by wild weather. The conditions, the tail end of ex-cyclone Seth, now a low-pressure system still hovering off the Gold Coast. Beaches were closed, coastal dunes battered by surging waves and powerful winds.
Ex-cyclone Seth hasn't been a cyclone for almost 2 days, but on the Gold Coast's eastern edge, conditions are still wild. The Gold Coast Seaway recently had a new walkway and railing installed. It was needed today. A dangerous spectacle which drew big crowds.
As you can see, I got drenched. Big wave came in.
As long lines of white water rumbled through just beneath the sand-pumping jetty. There were only a few people on the sand itself, and this is why. At high tide, there was no beach. A storm surge on top of one of the highest tides of the year sent the swells slamming into the dunes.
It's really exciting.
Which is exactly what happened at Burleigh Heads. At the top of the tide, a mistimed shortcut attempt to cross the rocks ended poorly. Debris from coastal creeks by the big tides continues to wash ashore. It's hard to spot in the sea.
I just want to go for a swim. I want that falling on me.
Wind gusts whipped across the city at up to 60 kilometres an hour. The dying remnants of Seth's original fury managing to push more waves through the Currumbin Surf Club car park. There's damage to be repaired, but at least the runaway beer kegs were salvaged.
All the kids wanted to come down and have a look like, is there still beer in the ocean?
Lifeguards closed beaches again for a third day in a row. A decision will be made tomorrow morning whether to open some beaches so that these holiday makers who came to the beach can go for a swim.
It is forecasted to drop tomorrow, but we'll wait and see.
With beaches out of bounds, some kids have found alternative activities. Adventure with a real risk of skinned knees.
Yeah, no, super fun, getting down, getting up and down. So sick.
On the Gold Coast, Steve Titmus, 7 News.
And Jordan Bissell is at Miami, where tides have receded, leaving erosion along the beach.
Yeah, Kendall, these beaches were in pristine condition just a couple of days ago, but the king tides have left half a metre of scarping in some places. From Miami and Mermaid Beach all the way up to Narrow Neck, here at Miami the tide was up to the grassy area of the dunes yesterday. Council has done extensive sandworks along the coastline to make sure the beaches can better withstand weather events. Council workers and a fleet of machinery will begin works later this week.
Thank you, Jordan. Now to Georgie Chumley. The impact of the wild weather on the Sunshine Coast could be felt for years to come.
Kendall, the washout has grown dramatically in the past 24 hours, with some experts saying the entire northern tip of Bribie Island could disappear eventually, and we could have a second Caloundra bar within months, leaving locals here at Golden Beach worried about the future. Where an island was, now a growing gorge. 200 metres dividing north and south Bribie, sand crumbling away every second.
The passage has opened up double what it was yesterday, and I hear from talking to the scientists this morning that it will slowly walk its way north, and the vegetation to the north of us here will eventually end up in the sea.
Locals clamouring to get a closer look while it's still there.
It'll take, 15, 20 years before it walks all the way up to the old bar.
Experts say extreme weather events and their extreme impacts will become more frequent.
They will impact the infrastructure, the economy of the city, the tourism, the fisheries. There are many consequences associated with this type of event.
With residents on the mainland now worried about the unprecedented and unknown.
We live in Pelican waters, so we will be quite affected with the tide. Very much of a concern.
As the tide drops and the seas calm, the full extent of the washout is becoming clear. What happens in coming weeks and months is up to Mother Nature.
If we have some other cyclones hitting the coast during the next month, then this could be potentially a more serious problem.
Sunshine Coast Council says the management of Bribie Island is a state government issue. The Department of Environment says it won't intervene in a natural process. What will change is the configuration of the waterway off Golden Beach.
Sandbanks shifting. The passages got shallower and shallower.
The northern tip of Bribie has changed significantly over time. This is what it and the water around Golden Beach looked like in 1971. This is it in 2020 before it broke in two. Now a fixture of fascination and foreboding for locals. Georgie Chumley, 7 News.
Now to Liz Cantor, and ex-cyclone Seth isn't done with us yet.
No, Kendall, while beach conditions will stay rough for the next couple of days, we're now more confident we'll see heavy rain later this week. This is because the low is expected to cross the coast, likely north of the Sunshine Coast, so we can expect an increase in rainfall across the southeast around late Thursday and into Friday. I'll be back with the forecast soon from here in Miami.
Looking forward to it. Thank you so much, Liz. A New York court has unsealed a once secret document that Prince Andrew hopes could end the sexual abuse lawsuit against him. The papers show his accuser, Australian-based Virginia Tue, settled a claim against convicted pedophile Jeffrey Epstein that included money, but with strings attached.
A legal document hidden for 12 years now bursts into the middle of one of the world's most watched court fights. Prince Andrew denies claims from Australian Virginia Tue he sexually abused her when she was just 17. In 2009, she was in another legal fight against the man she claimed not only abused but trafficked her for sex, convicted pedophile Jeffrey Epstein. Released today, their settlement. Epstein paying $500,000, about 700,000 Australian. Virginia Tue agreeing to release, acquit, satisfy and forever discharge from any legal action Jeffrey Epstein and any other person or entity who could have been included as a potential defendant. His lawyers are set to argue in a video appearance before a New York judge tomorrow that old deal slams the door on the case launched last August against their client.
Virginia Tue's attorneys are going to say that it is an entirely irrelevant clause.
For the Prince, the 2009 agreement could yet be a double-edged sword, stopping the legal action against him, but also highlighting his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein.
It's a stretch to say that as it were, we were close friends.
And yet now the Prince and his lawyers are hanging on to the settlement Epstein bought years ago. In the United States, Tim Lester, 7 News.
The man accused of lighting the fire that caused significant damage to Old Parliament House has been released on bail. He's part of a group that claims laws don't apply to them, but he didn't get far, accused of breaching his bail conditions minutes after leaving jail.
2 days after he was arrested for allegedly setting fire to the front of Old Parliament House, the suspected arsonist is released on bail.
Happy to be out.
But just minutes after leaving jail, the 30-year-old was arrested again.
He just got out. Come on, come on.
Accused of breaching his bail conditions by re-entering the Canberra suburb of Parkes, not far from Old Parliament.
We're here to grab his belongings and then he's on his way.
Originally taken into custody on Sunday, police say the Victorian man repeatedly carried hot coals from a smoking ceremony fire in the car park up the steps to the front doors, stoking the blaze, helping it spread. His name suppressed to protect him from retribution. He's part of the Sovereign Citizen Movement, a group that believes the government is illegitimate and laws don't apply to them.
We've taken a stand to now assert our sovereignty and challenge the jurisdiction.
Several supporters moving from the lawns of Old Parliament to the ACT Magistrates Court. His freedom short-lived, the alleged arsonist will now spend another night in custody before facing the magistrate again tomorrow, who may not be as ready to grant him bail a second time. Rob Scott, 7 News.
An important day on the cricketing calendar with the start of the annual Pink Test at the SCG tomorrow. The 4th Ashes Test between Australia and England will raise money for the McGrath Foundation to support breast care nurses across Australia. Aussie legend Glenn McGrath hopes to attend from day 3. He's currently in isolation after testing positive to COVID.
Yeah, I'm feeling great, which is probably the frustrating side of things, but have absolutely no symptoms whatsoever. So frustrating, I'll be sitting here rather than down at the SCG.
Boxing Day Test hero Scott Boland has retained his spot in the side. Coverage from 9 a.m. tomorrow on 7. Police hunting a couple after a violent carjacking in Logan early this morning that's left a woman injured and shaken. Why Donald Trump and his children are facing a fight to stay out of court. Even by North Queensland standards, it's hot. What's driving the mercury into the 40s? And before the weather, ex-tropical cyclone Seth has produced some great surf. Barrel along with some of the coast's best. A radiologist has been assaulted and thrown from her vehicle in a violent early morning carjacking in Logan. The 29-year-old was arriving to work at 5:30 when a woman jumped in her passenger seat. A male accomplice arrived in an SUV shortly after, helping the robber escape with the white Toyota Corolla. The victim was treated for minor injuries. Both offenders are still on the run. Residents in the state's north are sweating through near record high temperatures with little relief in sight. Air conditioning and anywhere near water were the most popular places to escape the heat wave.
The sun is scorching in central and northern Queensland.
Thanks to a very hot air mass, lots of humidity and really not much wind around. It's just letting all this hot air stagnate over really most of eastern Queensland right up to the tropics.
Townsville's rock pool, one of the best places to keep cool as a heat wave grips the region.
Oh, it was nice and cold.
An icy breakfast helps too.
We already had an ice cream, but we might get another one.
In Cairns, locals prefer to dip in Goombura Park.
Lots of trees, so lots of shade, and the water's nice and cool.
While in Mackay, it was the wave park that provided an escape from near record temperatures.
Best place to be today, I think, mate. Yeah, I wasn't planning on having a go, but watching the kids and getting the sweat up, I thought I'd better jump in and have a crack.
Residents urged to look out for each other as hot days turn into hot nights.
If you're an elderly neighbour or elderly relative, just check in regularly on them to make sure they're doing okay. And just they're trying to keep cool and well hydrated.
Dogs as well.
Put them in the air conditioning, put them under fans, don't close them up in a room, certainly don't put them in a shed and don't leave them outside.
We're not expecting to see much of a reprieve in these temperatures until we get to the very end of the week and into the weekend, where finally some showers and thunderstorms will return.
That wet weather could signal the arrival of another cyclone, with the Bureau monitoring a monsoonal trough forming off the coast.
We're certainly looking for any development that may form on the weekend and into next week as well.
Never a dull summer in Queensland. Elliot Chipper, 7 News.
Donald Trump and two of his children are refusing to give evidence in a civil investigation into the family company. New York's Attorney General confirmed overnight subpoenas have been issued to the former president, Ivanka Trump and Donald Jr. The investigation is looking into claims the Trump organisation manipulated the values of its properties to secure loans and avoid paying millions in tax. Lawyers for the Trumps say it's an attempt to get family members on the record, evidence that could be used in a parallel criminal investigation. There's a new website tracking down where you can get a rapid test, how to find one and how to ensure it's an accurate result. That's coming up. Plus, one rule for some, one rule for others when quarantine for passengers arriving from overseas will be eased. A life-saving spot, what a hockey fan noticed that saved a man's life. And beware at the beach, a salty sighting on the sand near Cairns. While COVID sufferers are freed from isolation in as little as a week, overseas arrivals with negative test results still must quarantine for 2 weeks. With tens of thousands of cases locally, there are now calls for one rule for all.
From one COVID hotspot to another. Fresh from Port Moresby, a small taste of freedom before 14 days of home quarantine.
I put it off for 2.5 years, haven't seen my kids.
To get here, John Hurst had to do a PCR test and prove his vaccination status, but is made to spend twice as long in isolation as someone who catches the virus locally. They're free in as few as 7 days, provided their symptoms disappear.
Well, it doesn't seem to make any sense, but common sense doesn't seem to be reigning at the moment.
Critics say the travel measures are out of date.
I think the utility of quarantining for 14 days when you're a relatively low-risk international traveller who's fully vaccinated and already tested negative, it is minimal.
Queensland Health told 7 News the risk profile for overseas hotspots is greater due to several factors, including quality of vaccinations, different variants circulating overseas, and uncertainty in contact tracing processes used in other countries.
I think we could simply quarantine them for the same period of time that we would do for local close contacts and local cases.
The international terminal is split into red and green zones to minimise contact with overseas arrivals. But with community transmission widespread, Professor Griffin says Queenslanders are now more likely to be exposed in their own neighbourhood. The state government won't budge on its plan to lift quarantine rules at the 90% double dose milestone. There's still more than 3% to go. Alex Lewis, 7 News.
Queenslanders have quickly learned rapid tests are expensive, hard to find and hard to use. If you're lucky enough to find a packet, there's a warning: not all tests are created equal.
They're the tests everyone wants to get their hands on, but many people aren't using them correctly.
We want to make every test count.
Ear, nose and throat surgeon Dr. Eric Levi says nasal swabs are of little use if you don't know what you're doing.
The nose is quite narrow at the roof, so if we were just aiming up in this direction, it's actually quite painful and uncomfortable. So if you imagine trying to aim around the back of the nose, would probably be the better direction, and just twirling that for about 15 to 30 seconds to get as much mucosa sample as possible.
It's why some experts believe throat tests are producing more accurate results.
People know how to do a throat swab quite well because they brush their teeth and sometimes they gag. But actually swabbing the nose is actually quite challenging.
Other experts say throat swabs seem to be more suited to Omicron symptoms.
People are really reporting a lot of sore throats with Omicron. It seems that kind of actually swabbing the throat or doing a sputum test may be better than just doing the nasal test alone.
The TGA has approved 18 home tests, ranging from very high sensitivity to acceptable sensitivity. The most commonly available tests are 90% accurate. Ongoing shortages of the tests have led to a Victorian man creating a new online locator. The Find a Rat website reporting what suburbs have stock all around the country. That's as finder.com.au crunches the numbers to find the most affordable options.
We've seen testing kits for as little as $10 per pack, all the way up to about $60. If you're spending more than about $60 on a rapid test, you're really paying the upper end right now.
The boss of Chemist Warehouse is now calling on the federal government to axe the GST on rapid tests, making them more affordable for people struggling to pay for them.
We sell a pack of 5 of these for $50, which works out to be about $10 a test. That'd immediately make one of these boxes $45, which is significant.
Shelves are expected to be better stocked with rapid tests over the coming days. Estelle Grieping, 7 News.
The world's youngest female self-made billionaire is now facing up to 20 years in prison. A jury in California has convicted Elizabeth Holmes on multiple counts of fraud. It follows the 2018 collapse of her Silicon Valley medtech company Theranos. Holmes raised billions from investors, including Rupert Murdoch, for what she promoted as a revolutionary blood testing machine that she knew didn't work. An eagle-eyed ice hockey fan has saved a man's life after spotting a suspicious mole on his neck during a game in the US. The aspiring medical student used her phone to raise the alarm.
Oh, wow. Hi. Hello.
It was a reunion neither of them saw coming.
Yes,
Nadia Popovici and Brian Hamilton were complete strangers until a fateful interaction at an ice hockey match in Seattle in October last year.
Just seeing him walk by the plexiglass multiple times, my eyes were immediately drawn to the back of his neck.
So she held her phone up with this grim message.
It threw me off, so I kind of just shrugged and kept going.
But it was advice that saved his life. Brian got the mole checked, which turned out to be a malignant melanoma.
The words out of the doctor's mouth were, if I ignored that for 4 to 5 years, I wouldn't be here.
And on New Year's Day, the pair properly met.
Thank you so much
thank
for
you.
reaching out.
Well, thank you.
22-year-old Popovici is about to enter medical school.
We already started, apparently.
I guess.
And was given a $10,000 scholarship for her studies.
Nadia's medical career's off to a good start as this story just keeps getting better.
For advice that turned out to be priceless.
I appreciate it more than you know. I will remember this day forever.
You and me both.
Matthew Carstunen, 7 News.
Hundreds of travellers were caught in airport chaos on Christmas Eve. Plans were left in tatters by testing. Here the case lawyers are mounting next. Spectacular pictures of the pro surfers who ventured inside those monster waves on the Gold Coast. Walking tall in shoes made out of recycled coffee. And breaking news as a COVID scare hits the Brisbane heat. Checking finance, and the Australian share market has risen sharply higher to close at a 4-month high. The ASX 200 added 145 points. Whitehaven coal soared almost 6%, up 15 cents as coal prices surged from Indonesia's export ban, while Macquarie Group hit a record high, adding $5.93. And the Australian dollar is buying 72 US cents and $1.06 New Zealand. A man has been charged with arson following a fire last year that gutted a shopping centre at Windaroo. Despite the best efforts of fire crews, none of the shops could be saved. A 22-year-old Coomera man is due to front Beenleigh Court tomorrow. Furious travellers who had their Christmas ruined by a COVID testing bungle have launched a national class action case. It's claimed the travellers were left stranded after being denied legally required test results. Now they want justice.
It was the holiday promise that turned into a nightmare.
Now we're in limbo. For me, it's a huge problem. It's not bad.
Passengers turned away Christmas Eve after paying for pre-flight PCR tests. Now they're threatening a class action.
To obtain some compensation for those who have lost money and possibly have had a psychological injury as well.
The domestic flyers told the test was only for international travellers.
It looks like we're not going to be able to fly.
Hundreds at airports in Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane were left stranded and waiting for refunds.
The company involved, to our understanding, has not come forward and made any apology or offer of remuneration to those impacted.
Histopath wasn't talking today, but the consumer watchdog says a refund is the least they should expect.
It's up to them if they want to take further action themselves, because they obviously may have suffered.
They had done the responsible thing and booked for their testing.
After missing flights and family holidays, the next hurdle for victims could be the length of the class action. While hoping to start as soon as possible, lawyers admit it could take up to 12 months.
If it's a fairly simple case, then the hope would be that we'd be able to resolve it quicker than that.
Angelique Opie, 7 News.
David Bowie's entire songwriting catalogue has been sold in one hit. Classics like Space Oddity, Let's Dance and Heroes now belong to Warner Music in a deal believed to be worth close to $350 million. The deal gives Warner the rights to 26 studio albums, as well as one posthumous release. That's all of his work from 1968 right through to the star's death in 2016. The deal made by Bowie's estate comes just days before what would have been his 75th birthday. A good cup of coffee can get us moving in the morning, now in more ways than one. A Finnish company is taking spent coffee grounds and mixing them with recycled plastic to make shoes. It takes about 21 cups of coffee and 6 plastic bottles to make one pair.
Only 5% of the coffee waste in the world actually got recycled.
The company boasts its sneakers are waterproof, antibacterial and fight odours. They're not cheap. The base model costs $165 a pair. To the average person, going into that wild surf of the past couple of days would have been madness. But for the big wave riders on the Gold Coast, they live for it. Watch them as they go inside those monster tubes. That's just ahead on 7 News. And the virus is causing monster headaches in sport, Ben.
Yeah, in all codes, Kendall. G'day, everyone. The Heat are the latest COVID casualties, but tonight's Big Bash has been saved. It's been a bittersweet day for Queenslanders as our pink test teams locked in. Plus, navigation and nature cause havoc as the lead changes in the Dakar Rally. There's been mixed emotions for Queenslanders on the eve of the Sydney Test. As expected, Usman Khawaja comes in for Travis Head, but Mitch Swepson and Michael Neser miss out despite Josh Hazlewood failing a fitness test. Instead, our newest cricketing cult hero got the nod.
Batting instead of bowling today, Scott Boland will be no one-test wonder.
I'm really glad he gets another crack out here.
Boland's Ashes ceiling 6 for 7 on Boxing Day, compelling numbers for his captain and a fellow bowling great.
Doubt it's going to be 6 for 7, but I did say just last week, just nothing more than that, mate. We'll take last week, so don't try any harder.
They sort of earmarked him for Melbourne and for the SCG, so
Yeah, I think he'll do well.
Josh Hazlewood close, but not over that side strain. Usman Khawaja recalled for the COVID-affected Travis Head. Australia's top run scorer bound to be back for the final test.
Heady will be back in for Hobart.
England's only change, Stuart Broad, reunited with good mate and all-rounder Ben Stokes.
I hope I've got a couple of caged tigers coming into this match.
The SCG ready for the pink test.
Nearly the opposite to COVID. COVID has pushed everyone apart. This is a way we can bring people together again.
But plenty of COVID reminders for spectators. Cummins feeling for the Poms decimated by the pandemic.
I think that they've sacrificed quite a lot to come over here.
The constant testing day in, day out is a distraction. And I'd like to think that we can find a better way around it going forward in the future.
COVID may be the game's latest threat, but cricket's oldest enemy, rain, is forecast here in the harbour city for day one. Whether the weather can save England from a series whitewash, well, watch Channel 7's live and free coverage tomorrow. Andrew McKinlay, 7 News.
Outstanding stuff. Now, the Big Bash has spent another day in a COVID scramble, this time after positive rapid tests in the heat camp. It's forced a reshuffle for the next 3 games at Metricon. Brisbane were supposed to be playing the Sixers tonight. Now the Perth Scorchers are taking on Sydney instead. It buys the Heat 24 hours to get PCR results and confirm who can play the Sixers tomorrow night. Thursday, it's the Scorchers and Thunder. Now, Perth only got the call up for tonight a few hours ago.
We understand that in the current climate, things are changing rapidly, and it's part of our responsibility to keep this tournament going. So we're really pleased to be here, and we can't wait to have a crack tonight.
They've elected to bat in the top of the table clash. Now, at least 4 Broncos will be missing when training resumes Thursday. No names, but the club confirmed 4 positive tests, all asymptomatic and isolating. There's no formal NRL bubble yet, but the league's banned players from attending indoor venues and restricted gatherings at their homes. The Bullets are on the other side of their COVID dramas. Players relishing the end of a 10-day lockdown with a feisty return to training. After 2 postponements, they finally host New Zealand Breakers Sunday afternoon.
Their first session back and plenty of close contact of the basketball kind.
The guys being back on the floor, they're getting after it and foul here, foul there, but it was a competitive group.
A group that's hardly had a festive season. Players testing positive, the squad forced to isolate, COVID protocols changing daily, and worst of all, for those who could, Zoom fitness sessions.
I will say that I hated it, and I'd prefer I didn't do that again.
Even the backdrop wasn't playing ball. Little wonder Sunday's game can't come soon enough.
You have to stay in your room or your house for 7 to 10 days. It's not fun for anyone.
NBL, AFL, regardless of the letters, COVID spells trouble across all codes.
We've always had a pretty resilient team that are happy to play anywhere.
A subtle reminder to those down south, big things do come out of Queensland. The Lions' quest for back-to-back women's titles starts Sunday with a grand final rematch. Adelaide still crowing they should have won the title.
We want to prove them wrong too. They've always been a great rival of ours.
The Suns open their season against the Giants, but the chance to break a 660-day losing streak not helped by 5 players testing positive last week.
The girls know how important it is for us to either win this game or get one early.
Sean Lawson, 7 News.
Navigation, not Mother Nature, has seen a lead change at the Dakar Rally in Saudi Arabia. Aussie Daniel Sanders took a wrong turn on stage 2, costing him valuable time. He also had to dodge the local wildlife, finishing the 791 Ks in 22nd spot. Sanders now 7th overall in the motorbike category, 13 minutes 29 seconds behind his teammate Sam Sunderland. 2-time winner Queensland's Toby Price climbed to 15th, but still trails by more than half an hour. Australia's Winter Olympic team uniforms have been revealed a month out from the Games in Beijing. Competition outfits will be revealed over the next few weeks, and after breaking his collarbone, mogul skiing silver medalist Matt Graham's racing to be fit.
Yeah, it's all going pretty well so far. It's a bit of a slow sort of process at the moment. I'm just over 3 weeks post-operations.
The Winter Games begin February 4, live here on 7, where it is a smorgasbord of sport. The cricket tonight and then the pink test tomorrow.
Bring on the pink test. Thank you, Ben. Far North Queensland's beaches are beautiful, but they can harbour danger. A 2.5 metre crocodile has been spotted stalking prey on Bramston Beach south of Cairns. The salty was filmed by locals over the long weekend, soaking up the sun near some birds before slinking back into the waves. Certainly something you don't want to encounter while on holidays. Now let's take a look at what's on Sunrise tomorrow.
Tomorrow on Sunrise, a new year, a new you. Don't miss the keys to weight loss success.
3 simple steps to make sure your hard work pays off. See you in the morning, Queensland.
Ex-tropical cyclone Seth has pushed through some pure sets for surfers on the Gold Coast. We take a ride in some of the barrels of fun.
And another La Nina drenching on its way to Queensland. I'll have your weather forecast after the break.
Incredible GoPro pictures have emerged of a surfer's trip through the centre of a huge wave off Kira. While ex-tropical cyclone Seth brought winds and heavy tides to the southeast, this week has been heaven for local surfers.
Gliding along a moving wall of blue inside one of Kira's world-renowned waves. This is what it's like in the centre of the churning barrel. Gold Coast big wave surfer Mark Matthews carried a GoPro as he braved yesterday's monster swells.
Yesterday was a good day.
Today we caught up with former world champion Mark Okolupo.
It wasn't too big, so it was surfable, and you know, hopefully it didn't wreck the banks too much.
The breaks off Cooley yesterday are who's who of the world's best.
Kira was, really good. It's nearly as good as it gets. I saw Joel Parker get a really good one.
Alongside 3-time world champion Mick Fanning. At Currumbin, the sun rose over Elephant Rock, illuminating pulsing lines which flooded a car park. The waves spraying spectators who lined the shore. Surfers used jet skis to power their search offshore for the best breaks. Today, the swells halved, but crowds doubled, keen for a repeat of yesterday's action, but they were a day late if they wanted to catch a wave like this. On the Gold Coast, Jordan Bissell, 7 News.
And staying on the Gold Coast, here's Liz Cantor with the latest on the weather.
Hello everyone. The weather is off to a wet and wild start in the southeast for 2022. The majority of our beaches remain closed today, while further north an extreme heat wave is taking place. Townsville to Mackay, hot and humid both day and night. In the southeast corner today, there was plenty of sunny breaks, although there were some gusty showers that passed through. A warm one for Brisbane with a top of 32, 21 to 31 on the Sunshine Coast. To the satellite, an ex-tropical cyclone Seth is driving conditions across much of the state. While he has pushed strong winds and huge swells to the southeast corner, he has also dragged hot air from central Australia up to tropical North Queensland, combining with extreme humidity to bring that heat wave. Looking ahead, the latest weather models have the low pressure system moving over land, likely north of the Sunshine Coast later this week, and that would bring an increase in rain around Thursday and Friday. It should move through within a day or two, so not a huge river flooding risk, just shorter bursts of heavy rain around the capital cities, and a wet forecast for Hobart, Melbourne, Canberra and Sydney, storms up north over Darwin. Back in Queensland's north, here's a look at the hot temperatures I mentioned. 26 overnight before a top of 37 for Townsville, and humid too. The heat should gradually ease towards the weekend. Heading south, 27 to 45 for Longreach. Along the coast, much more comfortable south of Gladstone, 22 to 31 for Hervey Bay. In the southeast, winds gradually easing but still breezy on the coast. Showers beginning to ramp up, but nothing too heavy yet, just a slim chance of thunderstorms inland. And slightly cooler, tops of 29 or 30 across the suburbs, all spots staying in the 20s overnight. On the water, strong wind warnings, and there's still plenty of swell offshore. For Moreton Bay, south to southeast winds up to 25 knots. In the River City, another hot and humid day ahead, with an 80% chance of showers passing through, possible at any stage. Then on to the 7-day forecast. The wet weather picks up a little more from late Thursday as that low likely crosses. More frequent showers and a cooler top of 28. In Ipswich, also a few showers with a top of 30 on Friday. Some spots could pick up over 50 millimetres between now and the weekend, including here on the Gold Coast. 28 on Thursday and Friday. And on the Sunshine Coast, those showers should start to ease from Saturday onwards, and it will be staying in the 20s. And that's the latest on our weather, Kendall.
Thank you, Liz. A few wet days ahead by the looks of it. That is all from us this Tuesday. Thanks so much for your company from all the team. We hope you have a great night.